So how many of you think you're neurotic? What do we mean by neurotic?
Isn't there like levels of it?
Yeah, there's levels of everything. So I have a tenet that I live by. I live by 3 letters. Take personal responsibility. And it's a good point that you said levels. So I'll tell you a story. When I was getting divorced the first time, back in 2003, I was in the shower and I felt this hand touch my shoulder. And I heard, everything is your fault. At the end of the day, it's all your fault, Francis. Take personal responsibility. And I was getting my PhD, and it wasn't like a mean voice. It wasn't a voice of blame. It was a voice of explanation. Something like from the divine. And I'm sure it was sweet and nice, whatever, but this is what I gleaned from it. And I was in my PhD program, I had to write a paper, and I had already finished the paper. But I had told you guys that in your doctorate program or master's program, what you do in every class is you write your theory that you're going to practice from. So in every class, you're fine-tuning your theory of practice. So by the time you graduate, you have your theoretical perspective fine-tuned. So this was my multicultural class, and I wrote my theory, and I wrote my teacher a note at the bottom of the paper. I said to her, basically, Ms. Fernandez, I wrote this paper, but this happened to me, and I shared this experience with her. And I said, and now I'm revamping my entire theory, but I'm not going to rewrite the paper because the paper was due on Monday. This happened that morning, and what was I going to write a new, 25-page theory? So I said, but I am now practicing from take personal responsibility. And basically, I live by those 3 letters, those 3 words, TPR. So I was working at schools, I would walk into the classroom and I would put TPR in all of the classrooms. A few years ago, somebody from Facebook, one of my old students wrote, Dr. Yahia, TPR, Eric Vicks, I remember him. And this became my thing. Students would fail, I wasn't doing counseling yet, I was just in higher ed. And inevitably, I wouldn't use the word it's your fault, but it was your fault. You have to look at yourself to see where you had blame or where you need to take responsibility for what's going on in your life. And I do believe that wholeheartedly. But like Paula says, there are levels, okay? So, who is neurotic? Is that working?
I can be at times.
Okay, how would you identify if you're neurotic?
Like going back to the whole anxiety thing, like when I see myself like overworked or overthinking on too many things, it's like, and you see it, you feel it.
Okay, but overworked on too many things. What is happening that lets you know? Is there a visceral reaction? There's something in the body that lets you know?
That things are happening to...
Yeah, that lets you know that you're like in a neurotic state?
Yeah.
And what are you trying to accomplish with that neurosis?
To get it done.
A state of control,
right,
perhaps?
Exactly. But in a sense, to do it in a calm way, not to do it in an angry, vicious.
So you want to get something done, but you want to do it calmly.
Right.
Okay, that's your goal.
Yeah.
But you notice you're neurotic when you're doing it in an agitated way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I put neurotic sort of versus obnoxious, and I borrowed this from that DSM, a simplified. This is the way they do it, the way they use it. And the common denominator is how much blame you place on yourself. So when I finish this, reading this, it says, when you begin to pay attention, you will notice that every situation has a number of causes and conditions. Instead of feeling like we are subject to the whims of others, that would be an obnoxious, everybody else you place blame on, or that we are helpless puppets of a cruel universe, we can start to notice and alter the causes before they lead to future problems. So we're always in a position that we can take some responsibility, some blame for where we are, or we can blame others. And there's a healthy 48 to 52. I have some blame in a certain situation, but you can ask for healthy boundaries and self-respect, and have self-respect, or ask for respect from others. You have a question?
No, I think I'm like that. I'm not 48, 52, but I'm not in the 0 to 100.
Okay, so you're maybe like a 70-30 or 60-40, and that's fine. Where most of us are never like a 48 to 52 ideally, but at least a 0 to 100. I'm very 100 when it comes to blame. Hence, what I hear when the hand is on my shoulder in the shower, Francis, everything is your fault. I mean, it sounded very nice and divine, but at the end of the day, the message was, Francis, you're at fault, accept it, move on, and that's what I wish I could find that paper, because it would be hysterical to read what I wrote to that lady however many years ago, you know. So here I am now practicing from a perspective that it's your fault. Now, I'm very nice to my clients, and, well, I wasn't for a while, but I mean, I'm nice in the sense that I can take personal responsibility and help clients see where they're responsible and perhaps where they have contributed to the situation that they're in. Whereas with me, I'm a total bitch. I'm like a cold-hearted bitch, and everything's my fault, and and I take the sword onto myself. So that's the varying degrees when it comes to me with myself. With myself, I have zero compassion, and with others, I do. And that really sort of, is that really true when Jesus says, love thy neighbor as thyself, not instead of thyself? So do I really love others if I can't even love myself? I've had to question that. Of course, if others treated us better, or could read our minds, or the universe would just pay us back in a positive way for all the crap we have endured, we would all be well. It sure would be great if that happened, but we really cannot control those variables. The only things we can control are our own actions. Use this worksheet anytime you have done something you later regretted. By paying attention to the causes and conditions that led to the behavior, you might notice some connections that will help you prevent it in the future. So this we're going to do a sample. I need a client, and I'm just going to go right through it, and then you guys will pair up and you'll do it with yourselves so that you could start practicing. So there are things where you can have clear-cut, you know, when a client comes, the first question is, what exactly is the problem behavior that you want to analyze? Very clear question. There it is, and then there's questions from there. And this is to help clients not necessarily place blame, but not to take on all the blame either. It's to reach that 48 to 52, perhaps that they could be balanced and say, okay, I am at fault with some of it, but I also can learn to achieve a healthy respect and boundaries as a result as well. Yes?
I have a question that might not be completely related to the topic, but I've always wondered if it's okay for, let's say I have a client that's having a very hard time actually speaking out whatever is troubling her, but she is better, communicating it through letter. So what do you think would be the best way to get that client to talk about it? Do you think it's okay to, the first step to be put it in writing and then take that letter and every day try to grab something from that letter and try to speak it in her own words?
I like drawing, personally. I think drawing is a really great way. So we've done a few activities in here with the subconscious where we've drawn pictures, closed our eyes. So one of the ways that you could do this is you can have the client close their eyes. I don't know about writing a letter necessarily in the session, but you could do that. I'm going to give you 2 activities, so you could write these down. These are great activities. First of all, writing a letter is a great homework activity. great homework, if they want to write a letter to someone. Now, there are different schools of thoughts. Do you give the letter to the actual person, or do you burn it? Do you just read it out loud in the therapy session, or do you give it to the person? And that's going to depend on your client and you and how you go about it. But writing a letter is a very appropriate thing. Absolutely, very common tool in therapy, especially for homework. But 2 really cool homework assignments. Have them draw a picture during the session. You give them a piece of paper, you have them close their eyes, and we've done a few, and we can do some more during, class in future weeks. And with their opposite dominant hand. So if you're a righty, have them do it with their left. If they're a lefty, have them do it with their right. You have them close their eyes and pick up crayons or markers and draw a picture about what it is. So for instance, if I were to draw a picture about blame, and you would say to me, Francis, you do a lot of self-blame, who are you angry? So for instance, right now I'm very angry at my ex-husband and I'm very angry at his mother, okay? I'm having a lot of difficulty displaying that anger because I feel guilty. I feel that I should not have that I should be a higher person, that I should be a better and bigger person. Okay, so I'm having difficulty with the anger. So you could say, let's take this. Neurosis has to do with control. Remind me to tell you something. I'll tell you that in a second. So I would say to myself, if I were my therapist, take this piece of paper, here are a bunch of crayons, close your eyes, and I'm a righty, so with your left hand, draw a picture of blame of TJ and Vanessa, okay? And then with my left hand, which is my opposite dominant hand, put my hand over the picture and see what I'm feeling. You know what, we're gonna do that. We'll do that in a little while. We'll do something, I'll come up with something so that you guys can practice. Some of you have done a similar activity, but maybe we'll do blame. And see what comes up and where you feel it and what release you have, okay? So that's one way of doing it. The second thing you could do is you can write a letter where you find out where you carry that emotion, what organ, draw the organ, put that picture on a chair, and talk to the organ outside of you. So you're separating yourself from that organ. So for instance, let's say I carry anger in my gut. I can draw my stomach, put it on the chair, and I can go, I'm very angry at you for whatever it is. I'm talking to something outside of me. And I'm able to separate and dissociate myself from that anger so I don't feel guilty. Why am I so neurotic? Why am I so a blame person on a scale of 0 to 100? I'm the 100. Because it has to do with control. Neurosis has to do with control. So when you're trying to do something and get it done, you're trying to control. Of course you have UTIs. That is a symptomology of control, marking our territory. I don't want my parents to know. I don't want them to affect me, hit me, hurt me, whatever it is. I don't want them to know just because. So what is behind such excessive control? I want to be omnipotent. I want to be in control of everything. I want to be God. And for me, I call that my Jafar complex. Jafar is from Aladdin. So I want to be, you okay?
Whoa.
You're having a download. You're having ringing in your ears?
And this one, but this one sounds like I have a speaker. Like, oh my God, that was so weird.
Okay, in my line of work, that's called clairaudience, and you get like divine connection, and oftentimes that's exactly what that feels like. and then it's like some information is trying to come through, or something that I said resonated, and your spirit is like,
Jafar.
so you might want to think about how
Watch it
neurotic you are, how God-like you are. It has a lot to do with wanting to control. And so there's this saying I heard once, I heard it in Spanish, but in English it's the same thing. If I'm not omnipotent, I'm not important. Si no soy omnipotente, no soy importante. And when I heard those words, I had a reaction like that. Wow. So if I don't blame myself for everything, then I know nothing. But if I blame myself for everything, I'm in control of everything. Therefore, I am in control of everything. I am God and I'm omnipotent. And I know I have that issue because I am a narcissist, as like I've told you people attracted to this field are. And I have that excessively. I'm definitely on 100. I don't have the balance that she has.
Would you
I'm working on
consider those people that speak their mind out, like when they're angry and they just tell you everything that they want to tell you, no matter, like, they know that it would hurt you, but they don't care? Would you say that that's a good thing, or not necessarily good or bad, but do you think that's a better way to, like, speak out? Or for me, I don't, like, if I'm in an argument, I never say a word, because before I speak, I think, and if I think that it's gonna hurt you, I don't say it, because I know I'm gonna regret it later.
It depends
Okay.
on the person.
Yeah,
'cause
and
that's
there's
kind
two
of a
schools of
healthy
thought,
thing.
and I'll point out Mr. Pachi's sister, okay? So Mr. Pachi has a sister who says what she wants, when she wants, and wipes her ass with who cares. And that has affected her. Whereas here you have somebody who's very considerate and like that will think before she speaks. Two very different schools of thought. Some would argue that her sister is healthier because keeps nothing in. Others would say that she is healthier because she's nicer and more considerate. But do you want to hurt someone? Are you controlling that because you want to be in control of the situation, or are you really having consideration for the other person?
Well, in my case, it's my mother, so I don't want to hurt her feelings.
But are you genuinely not wanting to hurt her feelings?
Yes.
Only you would know that, and your therapist.
Yeah, I would love to tell her off and say, you know, don't be complaining about your daughter because you're not the best mother in the world. But I could never live with myself by telling my mom that the one thing that she's always complaining about of not being a good mom, then her daughter is telling her that she's not a good mom.
Okay, but there's two things to that. Do you think that your mother has failed to be a good mother?
In some aspects, but generally I consider myself being a good person, so I think she did a really good job raising me.
Okay, but again, you're giving her credit
Yeah.
for things that are you.
You're excusing
You're
your
excusing.
emotions.
My
Okay,
therapist
because
said
you've
that.
shared things in here that you've been very clear
You're
that
so
she hasn't been.
We're so
My
opposite.
therapist
So you're
said
trying
that.
to control how you make someone feel. That's neurotic,
I never-
narcissism.
This is
Second of all, hold on, because I just lost it, and it was good. Say that again.
Thank you.
Bless you.
It goes
What you just said.
That I've
Oh, I remembered. Like my daughter says, the only person on this earth who can determine that your mother is a good mother is you. Nobody else. You're her only child? There is nobody else that can tell your mother whether she's done a good job or not. My daughter says to me, stop telling me you've done a bad job. I'm the only one, and my brothers, that can tell you whether or not you're a good parent. So you're trying to take away a role that only you can hold. Control much? Yes. So I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not determining that. That's for you and your therapist. I'm not in that role at this moment. But think about if you're just trying to control and get an action out of your mom. That's the hospital, but I'm not going to get it right now. That's highly expensive. That you don't want to hurt her feelings because you want to be in control. Then you can see if you're acting genuinely or if you're just acting through your Jafar. And perhaps that's why you got that feeling.
3 days ago.
Sounds like it's that, I have to tell you. There's nothing wrong with telling your mother you failed at doing XYZ, but you were very effective at doing this, this, this. There's nothing wrong with that. There is no right or wrong. We can stand Ms. Rapace and her sister right next to one another, and the people would have two varying perspectives. Some would say your sister's healthier, she's getting it off her chest.
And that's
And-
what she says.
Right, of course, because she's voting for
I'm
herself.
not gonna keep that inside me.
And
Doesn't matter
but
who
she's
hears
hurting
it.
people, whereas she could be saying, well, I'm not gonna hurt anyone. Is she doing it because she wants to be a considerate, good person, or is she control? Again, you have to be genuinely honest with why you're doing what you're doing. And I don't know their dynamic. But you see that there's two sides to the coin, but there's only one coin. But don't kid yourself when you're the only one who can make that decision, and you've been very clear in this room how, dysfunctional that has been. It doesn't mean that all parents are gonna fuck up. So for you to say good or bad, no, she's just been a mother with her flaws and her attempts and her good things and her bad things, just a mother. So when I take away my daughter's role and you take away your own role, you're being neurotic, you're being Jafar, you're being omnipotent, you're being God, you're being narcissistic. You're not being genuine, and neither am I. And I know that. It's hard for me to control because that's my issue. So, someone had a question?
Yeah, I like Miss Rapace and her sister. My mom says that it's because of my tumor, but I was Miss Rapace growing up. I was very quiet, very like la niña perfect, and then I became this one, and then I became me, and
You've always been you.
I don't know, like her, I feel like sometimes when I express myself or I say things, I am a bitch when I say it, and I realize that. And I don't like hurting the other person, but it makes me feel good because I got it out, like her sister does.
Okay.
But my mom's like, there's a way of doing it in a nice way. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Okay, that's a little too dark.
It's fine, it's fine.
That could be passive aggressive versus just aggressive.
She says that that's because
We are the world. That could be passive aggressive
she
versus.
says that has to do with my tumor from my.
Well, that's
pituitary.
just her trying to find perhaps an excuse for
That-
your
that
behavior
now-
being nice, but calling you a bitch in a nice way.
Yeah.
Aggressive versus passive aggressive.
She's
She's
just
like,
giving
when-
an example of what she's trying to tell her.
Yeah.
That's great.
Cause she's like, oh, now when they do the removal of the tumor,
You'll be
you're gonna
nice
see
again.
how you're gonna be the same Paola you were before.
Right.
And I was like, no, the thing is, I'm not stupid.
Because trauma and life
I'm not a
circumstances
fucking
and her putting you in jail
Yeah.
and just living on the streets
Yeah.
and having to do what you had to do had nothing to do
No,
with
she
it.
was like, that's all part of the pituitary.
Of
That's
course.
part of the tumor. That's
Of
what made
course
her
it
do
is.
that.
So
I was
that's a
like-
very passive aggressive way of saying you're not nice.
Yeah.
So, which one's worse?
But that's the
It
difference
goes
though.
back- okay.
I'm sorry, this is the difference though when you said, that you were like me with my sister where you feel bad saying something. See, my sister, her excuse is I have to get it out. But she doesn't go back and say, I feel bad about it. She doesn't feel bad.
totally
No, what I'm
She,
saying.
this is the way
Condones her
it is.
behavior.
No, my thing is like I was like you in the sense that I care too much about others, right? Growing up. And then I got a reality check down the line somewhere and I'm like, fuck you.
Well,
like,
when
that,
when you
fuck the
start
world,
like
pretty
me,
much. That
I
was-
I can relate to you because
Yeah.
like me, when you start telling people, and you don't have to be mean about it, but when you start telling people, I don't appreciate that, I don't like that you said that to me, you know, then they get shocked.
right.
Then they
You're
try
the-
to turn it around
Yes.
on no, because
Yes.
I tried to do that with my sister, where I'd say, you know, what you're saying doesn't make any sense, and then, but it's you, and you did this, and you did that, to the point where you understand that you're not getting anywhere, because she
Right.
just wants to blame you.
And
for
I
whatever.
personally think that you're very appropriate and have that healthy respect and
Right.
boundaries where you're saying, okay, maybe I had a role, but so did you. Whereas she's just the extreme of
Exactly.
the obnoxious, where she's just blame, blame, blame.
Exactly, and no responsibility, which
No.
is a pet,
Yes.
pet peeve of mine
Right.
with people in general. Okay, and I have people in my family who are like that. It's like, I don't mind, you could say what you want and do what you want, that's fine. But I won't respect you until you say to me, I'm taking the responsibility. Yeah, I did that, yeah, I said that, but they won't. They're like, that's not what I said, or that's not, you heard it wrong, or, well, it's your problem, not mine, I have to get it out in the open.
And it's
My
always the
mom-
responding, because it's certain people, like, I just had an incident with my, we lost custody of my auntie first child, or her firstborn, so it's just like her grandma, like, we literally stay right across the streets from each other. When I say cross the hall, and it's like, at times we used to have trouble with her just to see her, literally, like, bitch, you stay right here, like, it used to get to the point, but she never once, with me, I don't mind you telling me how you feel. Like, I want you to tell me how you feel, especially if I'm telling you something or I'm making you feel some type of way. I'm one for people. I love people to talk because my family don't talk enough, communicate enough. I never been one for me to allow someone to tell me how they feel and then not respond. Like, I'm not one to respond rudely or whatever like that, but I am going to respond. You're not going to say what you want without me responding, whether it's a good response or a bad response. And I can't stand this lady to save my life. Even when my auntie was alive, like, her way of doing things is just like, she's a very nasty bitch. Like, that's what her license plate should say. Like, seriously, like, she done took us through so much, and my mama got to this point where I feel like I would love to be where it gets to the point where somebody just say something, it's just like, I done been through so much, it don't affect me no more. And her first time saying something to me, it was just like, I tried to be like, Tonisha, don't say nothing. Like, I told myself so many times that day to not say nothing. Then I'm sitting next to my grandma, not the one I talked to y'all about, of course. She would have made it worse. Boy, because when I told her about it, she was that lady. But I'm sitting next to my grandma, and it was just like, Tonisha, don't say nothing, due to the fact that I felt like if I do say something, which never made me say nothing to her, even when my mom used to tell me something, it's like, I'm going to fail my auntie yet again. Her kids already not together. And Tonisha, you know, if you say something, shit is really good to go off. So she brought up how a court issue, like, she brought up court to us because she wanted to go out, and I had asked, I was like, I like your honesty, like, thank you for telling me that's why you're trying to give us to us, because usually we only really get my cousin when it's convenient for her, when she got stuff to do. Like, mind you, we stay across the streets. Like, we be doing a lot of little stuff. Oh, and now you're busy, or now you gotta go somewhere. Like, she's not gonna tell us, oh, I have nothing to do, I was just in the house, or this and that. Like, it hurts, because literally, like, bitch, you're less than 50 feet away. So she had brought up a court issue about us getting my little cousin, and that really, like, touched the nerve. So when I was like, thank you for your honesty, but I wasn't trying to be in the house. Oh, I thought we agreed that every weekend y'all will get, every other weekend y'all will get her, yada, yada, yada. Mind you, I just had my cousin back to back, 2 weeks back to back. I mainly always get them on the weekend, but lately it's like my body just been drained. I try to sleep over the weekend. This lady, she sent the whole paragraph to me, but the word desperate really, really got to me. So it's like, people feel it's okay for them to speak their mind, but the minute you say something back to them, it's a problem. Like, she sent me a whole little essay, But that word desperate, y'all fought me so desperately in court for her, and now y'all can't make time for her. When I say that touched the nerve, I was crying and I sent her as a text that she would never forget. I didn't finish completely say everything I wanted to say because I already knew the next text that was coming.
What
And I
didn't
had-
you like about it?
The word desperate. That's what I asked myself. Like, it was just that word, like, y'all fought us desperate. Because it was true. Like, we tried our hardest